Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are tearing through a stack of sources, all focused on this core tension that it probably dictates half of your career stress, and that's the fixation on being first. So for this deep dive, we're looking at a surprisingly simple truth. You don't have to be first, but you absolutely have to be good.
That phrase is really the rallying cry here. You don't have to be first, but you have to be good. All the professional perspectives we synthesized for you are really focused on personal growth, on shaping your career, and, challenging this whole idea that speed is better than quality.
Right. It's the difference between being that flashy startup that just fizzles out and being the enduring institution that, really masters its craft. So our mission today is critical. We need to pull out the exact actionable roadmap the sources give for defining success on your own terms and escaping that trap of constant competition.
And we all know where that competition lives.
Yeah.
It lives right next door, in the form of the legendary Joneses.
The Joneses, yes. They are sort of the benchmark of aspiration, aren't they? The standard that we're, I think, culturally programmed to measure ourselves against. The article paints such a vivid picture of them. They're driving the newest cars, living in the biggest house, and their lawn is always impossibly green.
Oh, he gets so specific. It's almost comical. We're told the Joneses kids aren't just, participating in sports. No, they're at the Junior Olympics level. And then, just to top it all off, the parents seem to be constantly appearing on the cover of Forbes.
It's this perfect, unattainable image, and it's designed to make you feel like you're perpetually behind, like you're missing something. And the source material gives us some great context on just how deep this idea runs.
It really does. I mean, the phrase keeping up with the Joneses, it's not new. It's not an internet thing. It actually comes from a comic strip, Keeping Up with the Joneses, by an artist named Arthur Popmomand. And that was way back in 1913.
1913. So this isn't an Instagram phenomenon. This psychological need to measure our worth against our neighbor's success, it's over a century old.
Which really highlights the challenge. And the sources argue that this fixation, this need to be the first mover, it just leads to burnout, to misaligned effort. Now, being first does have some advantages, sure. Market share, press, all that. But the material makes a really powerful case that sustained excellence, just being profoundly good at what you do, that's what matters more for, long-term happiness and fulfillment.
Okay, that's motivating, but let's get practical. If you stop chasing the Joneses, you still need something to aim for, right? I mean, in competitive fields, beating your rival is often how you get funding or a promotion. How do the sources suggest we deal with that reality?
And that's where the material introduces this really critical philosophical pivot. It brings in the concept of the worthy rival, which is a term Simon Sinek uses in The Infinite Game.
Okay.
Sinek idea is that a worthy rival pushes you to be better. But the unique insight here in our sources is that you have to turn that idea inward. Your most worthy rival should be you.
So you shift the whole conversation. It's not about external competition anymore. It's about internal continuous improvement. Instead of looking at the Joneses' lawn, you're looking at the progress you made on your own goals yesterday.
Exactly. It forces you to completely redefine the metrics of what winning even is. If they win by being on the cover of Forbes, well, you win by hitting the KPIs that you set for yourself, based on your own values. It all boils down to the article's most critical mandate. Define your success or live for everyone else.
And living for everyone else sounds like the fastest way to just burn out completely. So for the learner listening to this, how do we actually do that? How do we start building and stop being exhausted?
Well, the source gives us a really clear 6-step framework for this. It's designed specifically to help you transition from being a Joneses chaser to being, the architect of your own future.
Okay, let's unpack these, starting with step 1. This feels like where the rubber meets the road, but it's also where I think a lot of busy professionals just hit a wall. Personal reflection.
It's the foundational moment. The source really emphasizes that you have to truly pause and reflect on what brings you deep fulfillment. And that conflict you mentioned, that it feels like you're wasting time when you're busy, that's precisely why it has to be structured. It's not just thinking. It's a focused inventory. What parts of your job energize you? What aligns with your core values?
So it's more of a values assessment, not just a skills assessment, because I think a lot of us define success by professional metrics, the salary, the title. But the source is insisting on a more holistic view.
Absolutely. The article is very clear that success has to include professional achievements plus personal growth, work-life balance, your overall well-being. If your success means sacrificing your health, then you haven't really defined success properly. You've just, outsourced it to someone else's metric.
That makes a lot of sense. So once we've reflected on what matters, we move to step 2, self-assessment. This sounds more analytical.
It's the analytical counterpart, exactly. Self-assessment is about objectively identifying your strengths, your weaknesses, your interests. The point isn't to beat yourself up over weaknesses. It's to gain the self-awareness you need to align your career choices with your actual passions.
But what if my passion is, I don't know, competitive juggling, and my marketable skill is corporate law? I mean, the source has to address that gap, right?
It does. The key is finding the alignment, not perfection. The material suggests asking, where do my core skills overlap with what gives me genuine drive?
Hmm.
If you force yourself into a field just because it's prestigious, you might be competent, sure, but you'll lack that spark, that drive for true long-term excellence. Self-assessment guides you toward the roles where your effort feels exponential.
Okay, so we have the values and the self-awareness. Step 3 is setting the course, goal setting. We all set goals, but the source gives a specific framework here, and it mentions atomic habits.
Yeah, that reference to James Clear's work is so important because it's about making big goals manageable. The goals have to be realistic, achievable. But the key, the way you move away from the Joneses' huge standard, is by breaking your goals down into tiny, micro milestones.
That's the whole process over outcome mindset. Instead of, I must get that promotion, you focus on the systems that get you there.
Precisely. You maintain that rivalry with your past self through these small, measurable process goals. So maybe your goal isn't, I'll get a promotion this year. It's, I will dedicate 30 minutes every day to mastering this new skill. It keeps you motivated and makes the journey itself feel like a win.
That's a huge help, especially for high achievers who can get discouraged when the big goal feels so far away. This lets them feel successful every single day. Which brings us to step 4, learning and development.
Right. This is about recognizing that being good is a moving target. Industries change, tech changes. Continuous learning is a non-negotiable investment. If you're not actively learning new things, you are, in effect, moving backward.
It's the difference between relying on your degree from 10 years ago and actually engaging with what's happening today. But the classic critique is that learning is expensive.
And the source tackles that head on. It says the main investment is your time and attention, not necessarily your money. It points to all these incredibly accessible resources. Free learning portals, YouTube channels, TED Talks. The point isn't the diploma. It's the consistent, deliberate effort to expand what you're capable of, to become a better rival to your former self.
Okay, we're halfway through. Step 5 takes us outside our own head, networking and mentorship. How does the article guide this so we're not just building another network to compare ourselves against?
This is where the intention behind it matters so much. A strong network gives you guidance, sure, but the source makes a really important distinction. You need to specifically find mentors who have succeeded in your desired, self-defined field.
So you're not just chasing the most famous person on LinkedIn. You're looking for the person who embodies the specific values you defined back in step 1.
Exactly right. Their experience gives you critical, specialized insight. They help you avoid the pitfalls on your specific path. They aren't there to tell you how to be famous. They're there to tell you how to be good in the way that you've chosen to define it. A great mentor just accelerates your mastery.
That's powerful. And that brings us to the final step, which is arguably the most crucial one for keeping this whole thing going: continuous evaluation.
This is the feedback loop for the entire process. The article stresses how important it is to regularly assess your progress, not against the Joneses, but against the process goals you set in step 3. And crucially, you have to be open to adjusting your path.
That sounds like the hardest part. The moment you realize the path you set 6 months ago isn't working anymore, it takes courage to pivot.
It takes radical honesty. The source reinforces this idea that success is a journey. It's not some static destination you arrive at. If you treat your plan as fixed, you fail to account for change. Continuous evaluation ensures that you are always adapting, always evolving. Being willing to pivot is maybe the greatest sign that you're actually in control of your own destiny.
So if you put all 6 of those steps together, from reflection to constantly checking your progress, it really does give you a proactive roadmap for career control.
It synthesizes into a true sense of empowerment, I think. These steps move you from passively waiting for someone to notice you to actively shaping your own destiny. You become the architect of your future, as the sources say. And that proactive stance is the real driver of long-term growth.
And for you, the learner who wants specific, actionable knowledge, this framework is it. It's a definitive guide you can start using today, starting with that tough but necessary first step of reflection.
The entire framework is about rejecting external validation as your main measure of worth. If you look at other things from the author, like articles titled "Promotions Aren't Fairy Tales" or "Crying in the Bathroom Isn't a Strategy," it just reinforces this. Success is built on realistic action and internal definition, not on magical thinking.
So here's the provocative thought we want to leave you with today, and it builds on that idea of continuous evaluation. Think about that one piece of external validation, that job title, that income, that perfect Jones's image that you are currently chasing, maybe just out of habit. If you are not actively, honestly, and continuously evaluating your path against your own metrics for success, then who exactly is making the life-altering decisions about your future for you?
Something to consider as you define what good truly means to the only person who ultimately matters.